name is Rima. I'm a mother. I love the ocean. I love healthy food. And I really like making people happy. I live on the North Shore of Oahu with my husband Mark and my 4-year-old son, Curran. A lot has happened since episode 2. Need I mention that nearly a year has passed since I last posted it. And if you can believe it, I've rewritten and reshot this episode already more than once. I suppose I just lacked clarity on how to put this part of the story together. So here goes. Here's episode 3 of My Life and a Food Truck. The last we left off, we just bought the new truck, 2.0. Truck 1.0 was up for sale. We got truck 2.0 towed up to Junior's property, and Junior was gonna help us do the mechanical work to replace the engine in the new truck that we bought. Unfortunately, he ended up in jail shortly thereafter, and things were kind of at a little bit of a standstill after that. Eventually, Mark decided that he was just going to do it himself. He got the guys over the property to tow it over to our place, and once it was at our place, he got Aaron and Aaron's brother Billy and their dad Jack to help them get the new engine that we purchased from the junkyard out of the car that it was in, out of the donor vehicle. I don't know, 6-8 hours later, they brought back the engine. After some research, Mark came to the conclusion that it wasn't going to be a good fit. That engine came out of a Suburban. It was a 305, and we decided we didn't want to put it in there. So the next thing we did, Aaron serendipitously comes across a guy named Mick on Craigslist who just happens to have a Chevy 350, newly rebuilt, small block engine. So you can't say no to that. Regardless of the fact that we had already paid $400 cash for the 305, this engine is beautiful. It's totally rebuilt, repainted. It just looks gorgeous. Billy and Aaron helped Mark take the broken engine out of truck 2.0, and that ended up on the side of the house. And along with all of that, we also still had truck 1.0 sitting also in the driveway. After lots of lowball offers and just dealing with really ridiculously stupid people on Craigslist, we finally sold truck 1.0. I think we invested like $7,000 into it after all was said and done, and we sold it for $2,000. That was, whatever, business. Having truck 1.0 out of the way was a huge relief, because honestly, it was just taking up a lot of space. It did serve a purpose at times. While truck 2.0 was down without an engine, truck 1.0 actually hauled it around a couple of times. So I can't say that we totally didn't use truck 1.0 or that it was completely useless, but we were glad to see it gone when it sold. With truck 1.0 out of the way, it was just kind of time to really get our hands dirty on 2.0. And in February, my friend Cody came out for a short visit. He came and helped Mark. They did a lot of cleaning, scrubbing, graffiti removal, and just straight up manual labor on 2.0, which just had to be done. No one likes to do that job, but go Mark and Cody. Yay! Having Cody around was a good time, just because that was a lot of fun. He was here for like 5 days, and they basically just were kicking butt getting that thing all ready for the engine transfer. And then when Cody had to go home, it just so happened that we were bringing him to the airport. We ran out of gas, and we were stuck on the side of the road. We called AAA, and they came just in time with some gas. But he made the flight. That's all that matters. So next, what happens next? Junior's, of course, still in jail, and it's up to Mark and Aaron, with a little bit of help from brother Billy, to basically get this thing off the ground and started. So before they put in the new engine, they needed to rebuild the front end. Check rotors, new shocks, new springs, new ball joints, new bushings. 3 days later, we have a new front end. Still no engine, However, new front end looks fantastic. After Mark rebuilt the front end, we still needed to do the transmission rebuild. In this case, we sent it over to a third party, Ace Transmission, rebuilt the transmission for us and brought it back, newly repainted, ready to go, and working awesome. And we did find out that the reason why the transmission was locked up was because somebody slammed it into park whilst driving at probably a good pace. After the front end gets rebuilt and the transmission is rebuilt, they managed to get the brand new small block Chevy put into truck 2.0. There was one small caveat. It was just not running perfectly. Lucky for us, after all of this, Junior just happens to get out of jail. I'm gonna segue back into the fact that if Junior didn't go to jail in the first place, we probably never would have found that new 350 Corvette engine. And we probably would have rebuilt the 305. It actually ended up being a blessing in disguise. So as much as I felt bad that Junior went to jail, it worked out for the best. And it was perfect timing because Mark really needed his help. So as much as Mark's an awesome backyard mechanic, he's just not a magician like Junior. The two of them worked together. He basically worked maybe 10 hours straight, and regardless of the fact that he did take some naps during the day, he still was a great help. 3 days after Junior gets out of jail and with a little bit of TLC, Truck 2.0 is off and running. We're loving life. So enter the fun world of the DMV. Safety, registration, insurance, lights, windshield, seatbelts, electrical, all that fun stuff. In the state of Hawaii, they require you to have this thing called a safety. It's important that the windshield wipers work and that the headlights and taillights and brake lights work. And oh, the horn has to work. After all that was fixed up and working, then we were able to go get it safetied.
Is this actually happening? That's crazy! Holy moly! Look at that.
So the truck is now up and running. After several trips to the DMV, it's running legally. And at this point, it is running like a dream. Half of it has been installed with awesome aluminum support for cabinetry, and the other half is kind of just pending. We are this close to being done. Hopefully it's not going to be another 2 years till we're serving coffee. There's some really exciting things to come, so make sure to stay tuned for episode 4 of My Life in a Food Truck. You're going to like it. On the next episode of My Life in a Food Truck, we make some major changes that affect the nature of our future business. With the idea of a real coffee business in the near future, we spend less time wrenching and more time brewing. On a limited budget, we find that one man's trash can most certainly be treasure. And now with 2.0 running legally, she doubles as a moving van. Stay tuned for episode 4 of My Life and a Food Truck.